start by emphasizing the power of just one message in somebody's life. In my many years of preaching, because I've preached for many years, I got saved in 1999 when I was just 1 year old in teaching profession. I didn't get saved in high school. I didn't get saved in university. I got saved as a teacher. And on that particular day, I gave my life to Christ. It was on the 19th of September. And there was a big camp of Redeemed Gospel Church in Undanyi town. That's where I began to teach. Dr. Agri High School was my first station. And that school is a school that, it's a school that is now national. I thank God it's now national. But by then it was extra county. And the Lord used that opportunity to bring me to Christ. And I believe it was meant to be the right time for me. So I have just noticed something. Thank you, Pastor, for saying what I'm trying to find. I think I dropped my handkerchief in the car. Thank you very much. And I have noticed that over the years, it takes just one message to take somebody from one level to another. And I have realized that sometimes somebody has been hearing a lot of things. And I know they have been helped by many people. And I know many preachers have come to the life of that person in different seasons of life. But there is a time when you just want to hear one message only. There is power in one message. And therefore, when I'm given a chance to speak to young people like you, when I'm given a chance to go to a church and minister there, I take it as a very special occasion. I take it as an occasion that we need to take time to prepare for. We'll pray over it and be sure that the Holy Spirit will be using you in a proper way in that particular session, because you never know. Somebody's life is going to change just because of one message. And I know that to be sure. Because when I was reading Barack Obama's book, he calls it the book that he calls The Audacity of Hope. In it, that is the second book that he wrote. The first one was called Dreams from My Father. Then the second book that Barack Obama, the president, wrote is The of Hope. And then I discovered that The Audacity of Hope, that title alone, was actually a title of a preaching that Obama attended in a church service called Trinity in Chicago before he came to Kenya to find where his father was buried. Because unfortunately, he never stayed with his father long enough. So when he heard that his father was dead, he never felt anything because there was no connection between son and father. But after some time, he went to a church somewhere called Trinity Church, and he listened to a preacher, and the preacher entitled his message, The Audacity of Hope. And when he preached about the audacity of hope, Obama was so moved that he cried tears. And there was a lady sitting next to Obama who gave him, just like the pastor has done, who gave him tissue to wipe his tears, because he came to church without a handkerchief and he didn't know he was going to cry. He didn't know that tears would come out of his eyes. So as tears were rolling down his eyes, this lady realized he needed help. So she gave him some tissue, some serviette, or this serviettes or tissue, something that helped our village. You get to 100 years and you have not had a message like that again, and that impacts you forever, and it turns you around and makes you the person that God intended you to become. So there is power in just one message. So anytime I take hold of the microphone, anytime I stand before a congregation, I take it very seriously, so seriously that I do my preparation thoroughly. I do my preparation thoroughly. I go before God and I ask God, what is it that you want somebody to hear in Mlimani at a time such as this? What exactly? Who are you bringing there? Because I never knew who God would bring here today. But see, this church is now full of young people. And God has sent me here to do something on his behalf that will change your life, and your life will never remain the same again. I know that because the Holy Spirit has confirmed to me that in this church we have people who need to meet with themselves. People who need to reintroduce themselves to themselves. They need to look at themselves in the mirror and discover who exactly they are. Because it is possible that you can live your life and not know who you are. I'm talking about identity. And you know, if the devil succeeds in distorting your identity, he will snatch away everything that God kept for you. So the first thing that I want to deal with today is for people to discover who they are. Before we even talk about the integrity that you need in life, before we even talk about your character, do you know who you are? Have you ever discovered who you really are? Have you allowed people to define you? Have you allowed your culture to define you? Have you allowed your teacher to define you? Because teachers pretend sometimes that they are capable of defining you and your destiny. And being a teacher myself, I know sometimes teachers mess up students a lot by misdefining them. And if God helps you so that you can get his own divine revelation of who you are, my friend, you are sorted in this world. You will live and fulfill that which God brought you here for. And you will do it in a manner that befits honor. And you'll do it in a manner that pleases your maker, so that one day when you go to face him, you face him and he says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." That is the recommendation that I hope to get one day when I face my maker. Because the maker is not intimidated by your tribe. He is not intimidated by your culture. He is not intimidated by whose son you are, whose daughter you are, whose second name you carry. It is nothing. If you fulfill your purpose in this world, when you go before the Lord one day, I don't know when your appointment will be, you will receive the recommendation of, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And I think the best time for somebody to discover who they are is when you are still young, like you are today. Before somebody distorts the picture that God had for you when he created you in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. You know, when I was still young in salvation, I really wanted to know, what is it that God wanted when he created man? Because he had done everything, he had created everything else. But lastly, he said, "Let us create man in our own image." I believe he was discussing with the Trinity. He was God the Father was telling God the Son and God the Holy Spirit, "Let us now create man in our own image, in our likeness, that they may rule over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." Some versions say that crawl. That verse appears just as simple as you learned it in CRE in your classroom. I know teachers have taught you about this. But this verse carries a life-changing revelation that you need to know. Why were you created in this world? Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness, that they may rule." If that Bible is yours, If you don't mind, because some people don't like drawing lines in the Bible, you don't mind, you can draw a small line under that they may rule over. That they may rule over. In other versions, it says that they may have dominion over. Other versions say that they may manage the creation. Other versions say that they may lead the rest of creation. All those words are synonymous to having control over the rest of creation. Why was I created in this world? I was created to have dominion. I was created to have rulership over the rest of creation. The next question would be, why is it that we don't all become leaders? We don't all become rulers? Because God created rulers. How come we don't end up becoming the rulers that God created? And I come back to the answer that I began with. And the answer is, the devil distorts people's image, people's original plan, purpose of God, by bringing in other things. And one way that he does that is by culture. Another way is by using people of authority over you to distort that picture of who you are. It could be even your father. It could be even your mother. It could be your grandmother, grandfather, who spoke words that changed everything about the original plan of God for you. It could be a culture that says the girl child cannot do this or do that. It could be perhaps the way you were nurtured in school so that you feel small, minute, and intimidated and inferior. You walk around apologetically looking at everybody as if they're better than you just because of where you come from. Just because of the humble background. Just because of things that are beyond your own control. I came to say to somebody today, small beginnings are good for you. We shall be talking about that. But I wanted you to know that where you come from does not matter. What matters is